everybody. We wanted to tell you about a really unusual case we got in this past October in 2020. It came from Clay County, West Virginia, which is a kind of mountainous area in the center of the state. We got a report that we had a white hawk that somebody had found in a field, and he had picked it up and gotten it home, and it was not able to stand, wasn't able to move very much, very lethargic, and he was quite worried about it. And he called us. It was late at night. It was probably 9 o'clock at night. Clay County is a little bit off the regular roads, and so it's going to take him a little bit to get it to any of our intake points, and they were all closed for the night anyway. So we talked to him about keeping it going overnight, and then the next morning he took it to Animal Care Associates, which is in Charleston. It's one of our main intake points in the Charleston area. They stabilized him and got him over to us the next day, and that's where we discovered we had a leucistic red-tailed hawk. Leucistic means that they're a white hawk, a white animal. It could be anything, but it's not an albino because it still had brown eyes, still had some coloration on the wings, and a little bit of coloration on the toes. We got him over to Three Rivers Avian Center, where we immediately checked him out for lead toxicity, which is one of the main reasons, particularly in more rural areas, that we see hawks that are down and not able to stand. And his lead toxicity came back without any major problems. He came back actually really good. But everything pointed to a toxic issue. So Dr. Bill Strite, who's our staff veterinarian, had us come over, where we were then able to draw some samples, blood samples, and get them over to Antech, which is a laboratory that can do full range panels over multiple issues that we could not do here at TRAC. It came back positive, very heavily positive for West Nile virus, and it came back very heavily into the zinc toxicity area. So we had two problems. We were a little worried about trying to get him to eat at first because his feet were really, really sore. He had evidently tried to catch something that really didn't like him very much and had bitten his feet. And he had some infection going in there. So on top of all the other things that were making him feel sick, he also had painful feet to deal with. Well, it took us a couple of days to get him to where he was strong enough to try to eat on his own. So when he got to eating on his own, it was a day of jubilation. He, of course, was on medications then at that point for both West Nile virus and for the zinc toxicity, and some antibiotics and anti-inflammatories for the foot issue as well.
Okay, once we got the bird back from Dr. Strite, we continued on with support therapy while we were waiting on the blood values to return. And this was important right here because you can see he's eating on his own. This took about 3 days. And during that time, we were hand feeding him, chopping his food up into little bits and putting them in his mouth. He was that down and out. And once he put on some weight and was feeding himself properly, we could move him out to the flight barn and put him in room number 2, which is a room big enough for birds of his size to actually get a little flying time in. This was going to be really important because he'd been down for so long that muscle atrophy had set in, and it was going to be an issue whether he could even fly or not. Now, to this point, we didn't really even know if his wings worked right. Turned out that it was all about West Nile virus, as it turns into. Anyway, this is him getting ready, staring me down. Yep, it was only 20 feet, but good enough. That's good enough. I mean, it shows that he could use his wings and he could stick a landing. So we moved him out into room 3 in a few days, which is a much bigger room, and you can see he could maneuver beautifully. That was a nice turn there, and he landed perfectly. That was an over a 40-foot run each way. So then, the final stage of his recovery was to move him into the flyway, which is a circular room, and then it was time to turn him loose.